market for a luxury people mover that actually takes your family in style on a long journey? Well, for a very long time, the options have been limited to the likes of the Tata Hexa, the Mahindra Marazzo, and Toyota's Innova, which has really reigned the segment. There's been little else around. Now, if you wanted something more luxurious, you had to stretch all the way up to a Mercedes-Benz V-Class, which is very much more expensive. The new entrant into the market, Kia Motors, has realized there's a glaring gap in this segment, and they've decided to bridge it with the Carnival. Can the Carnival be a truly luxurious MPV that's been missing for a long while? Well, that's what I'm here to find out. Let's begin with the way it looks. The Carnival is over 5 meters long, which makes it a whole lot longer than an Innova and almost as long as the Mercedes V-Class. It's wider than both of them, but not quite as tall as the Innova. It looks pretty massive from the outside. The front end gets the trademark tiger nose grille with wraparound LED lamps that are inset into cavities that extend from the base of the grille, which gives it a wide stance. And there's an adequate amount of chrome that surrounds the grille and the ice cube fog lamps. The side is characterized by a strong line that runs from the headlamp all the way to the back, and the large window areas look like they're wrapped all the way around to the rear, with the D-pillar being blackened out. The rear itself ends in a pretty upright tailgate with a chrome bar that runs right across. Now, if your hands are full of luggage, as long as the keys are nearby, the tailgate will still allow you to open at the touch of a button, making it really easy to get your hands free again. Now, while I do have this boot open, let's take a look at all the configurations and how much space you can open up and what the boot size really is. With all 3 rows up, it has a reasonably large 540-litre boot, which can expand to a massive 2,759 litres depending on the variant. The third row has a smart manual mechanism that folds it flat into the floor, maximizing the space available for luggage. But let's get all the seats back again and see how spacious it really is on the inside. We have on test with us the top-end limousine variant with the VIP seats in a 7-seater configuration. Open the door at a touch of a button. It is a step up into the cabin, but you do have a grab handle to help you in. Slide the seats apart to actually make more room to get into the rear. And that makes ingress quite easy to the third row. For someone that's my height, 5'3", I've got more than enough space over here. I've got a lot of leg room. I can stretch my feet out a bit. The seat reclines as well, so I can make myself quite comfortable. It is still a bit of a knees up position and it's best for smaller people, though I think a taller person would also fit in here. I do have the charging port. I have sun blinds here in the third row as well, the AC vents. So yeah, people my height could fit in for a long journey here. Let's get to the middle row and see how that feels. Well, shutting the door is pretty easy. It's at the touch of a button. Once again, comfort features for me. There's an air purifier, there's a charging port for a USB. There is also the plug point, the 221 for a laptop or something like that. I do have cup holders. And in this top-end limousine variant, I do have the screens as well. The climate control is also over here for the middle row and third row. I can adjust temperature, I can adjust blower, and I can adjust the mode as to where I want the airflow to go. The seats themselves have a range of movements as well. You can get really comfortable in this middle row. I can move forward to make more room for the back row. I can move all the way back. So a large range of movement over here. So say there isn't a third row passenger, let's see how comfortable I can really get. Put my feet up in these seats, recline myself, and yes, this is luxury traveling. The VIP seats are super comfy. The dual sunroof and large window areas make it seem more spacious than it already is. There is ample storage all around the cabin. The central bin is really deep and can easily swallow a tablet. There's also the wireless charging pad to put your phone. There are dual glove boxes, storage in all the doors, including space for a 1-liter bottle, and cup holders for all the rows. The Carnival, in fact, has a host of comfort, entertainment, and safety features. So while I relax a bit, you take a look at the variant-wise breakup. Now, while having space and features matters in the backseat, ride quality matters a lot as well, because you've got to be comfortable on those long journeys, right? So let's start with the low-speed ride. It's nice and pliant. It rounds off the bumps and edges really nicely, so you will be comfortable when you're in the city limits. And as you pick up the pace, like I'm doing now out on a more open stretch of road, it's very flat, it's composed, so you will be comfortable as well. The only place it gets caught out a bit is if there's a big dip in the road, then you tend to get tossed up a little more. So the Carnival ticks off all the right boxes as far as comfort and backseat luxury goes. But there will be some who will also opt to drive it themselves. And for that, it's time to get into my favorite spot in the car. Now, when you do want to get behind the wheel, once you're here, you'll find visibility is really good. I have a lot of range of adjustment, so I can get nice and high. The windscreen is large, so I can see through. The A-pillar has a little bit of a window there, so that you can see through it at corners as well. And the other thing is that it doesn't feel quite as large as it looks from the outside. It feels quite light on its feet, maneuverable, and easy enough to drive. The Carnival surprised me on U-turns as well, with the steering swiveling lightly and the large car turning easily. Yes, its proportions are large, and that means you will need larger parking area than normal. And getting into that parking area will also be a bit of a maneuver. But then there are cameras and front and rear sensors to ensure that you have ample support. Now, to power the Carnival, there is a BS6 ready 2.2-litre engine that produces 200 PS and 440 Nm of torque, and power goes solely to the front wheels. The engine is smooth, it's refined, and as you can see, it gets up to speed really easily. I'm already up to the 80 mark where you heard that warning sound. So it's pretty effortless to drive. It gathers speed quite easily. There's enough power and performance. I think whether you're cutting through city traffic or whether you're on the highway, this is going to make driving pretty effortless. The only time you notice that the gearbox is a bit slow to react is if you storm down on the accelerator for a sudden burst of immediate power. Otherwise, if you cruise along and are gentle with the throttle, overtakes come easily enough. We even took the Carnival into a quarry to check how it would go over some of the rougher roads, and it fared pretty well without bottoming out. But we will also have to see how it fares fully loaded. Now, do note the Carnival uses a monocoque construction while the Innova uses a more hardy body-on-frame arrangement. So to sum it up, we asked ourselves at the beginning if the Carnival could bridge a gap. It certainly does. It may not be the kind of workhorse that an Innova is, but if you're looking for luxury travel for a larger amount of people, it definitely does the job and does it well. It feels premium, offers a bucket load of features, and can fit up to 9 passengers depending on which variant you choose. We expect it to be in the 25 lakh to 35 lakh rupee range, and for that kind of money, there is nothing else quite like it.
Coming up after the break, is the Nexon EV an electric car you'd want to buy? Stay tuned to find out.
Tata's first electric car, the Tigor EV, wasn't really targeted at everyday car buyers. This one, however, the Nexon EV, its second electric car, definitely is. It comes with a 129 horsepower electric motor, a claimed range of 312 kilometers according to ARAI, and plenty of comfort features on the inside. The Nexon EV is different on the outside. More rugged looking to begin with, the facelifted version gets a higher bonnet, new headlights and a new front grille. There are plenty of blue elements to indicate it's an EV, and at the rear, the new Union Jack-like clear lamps feature LED elements. Powering the car is a permanent magnet motor that puts out a maximum of 129 horsepower and 245 Newton meters of instantly available torque. And the motor draws power from a 30.2 kilowatt hour T-shaped battery pack that's placed under the floor. The dashboard is familiar but updated. Now this one obviously is the EV. You get this anodized blue here, beautifully finished. It indicates that this is the electric version. You also get this display in the instrument panel. You can toggle through the various modes here. Of course, the most important mode is the energy flow so that you understand how to drive. On the left of that is a sort of tachometer which goes from regen, where it regenerates power back into the battery, to eco driving mode, that sort of eco range, and then finally power on the top. The steering wheel is also new, and because the new gear selector takes the place of the traditional gear lever, there is now a large storage cavity in front. Instead of the gear lever, you get this big chunky knob that goes reverse, neutral, drive and sport. The gear selection dial, however, isn't intuitive to use. When it's in the sun, you can't really tell what mode you're in. So in the back of the Nexon, and it's easy to forget how comfortable this car is in the back. Excellent seat, lovely support for the thighs, good back support, nice elbow rest, and even plenty of headroom despite that arching roof, despite that tight-fitting roof. Excellent. Now, of course, this is the EV, so you get blue highlights here on the seat and this blue double stitching. But what's missing is a sort of charging point here and maybe a 12-volt socket. And Tata has deleted the blower control as well. The top spec XZ Plus Lux variant now gets additional features like a sunroof, beige leatherette upholstery and auto headlamps and wipers. Some of the variants also get 35 new app-based connectivity features. Initial impressions from behind the wheel are good. Now where the Nexon EV does a tremendous job is that first inch of throttle travel. Tap the throttle and it moves forward effortlessly. There's plenty of torque, there's lots of energy, and as long as you don't require a sudden burst of power, the works very well. Whereas that initial spurt is beautifully metered and strong, ask for a bit more power in D, and it doesn't really respond quite as well. It takes its time to build speed, and then you prefer to have it in S mode. Once you make the switch to S, of course, there is a lot more power and the Nexon just flies down the road. It is pretty thrilling. There's a lot of acceleration, and as Tata claim, this is one of their first cars that ducks under the 10-second time for 0 to 100. Flat out, however, the Nexon EV manages only 120 kilometers an hour. Despite the heavy battery, it's also pretty agile. Now, because the weight is seated so down low and the Nexon is already a pretty agile car, this one is even more fun to drive. It sort of has the weight in the right place, you can chuck it around corners, and the steering gives you quite a lot of feel too. Thing is, on some of the tighter corners, the inside wheel tends to spin up a bit with that extra torque from the electric motor. With the heavy battery placed underneath, the springs and dampers are a bit stiffer. As a result, there's a hint of firmness to the ride. It isn't uncomfortable per se, but there's clearly a layer of stiffness now as it rides over busier and broken sections. Up the speed, however, and it comfortably rounds off bumps. The brakes are also excellent. Now normally when you have regen braking, the brake pedal feels spongy, but not here. There's a lot of bite, plenty of confidence, and it just gives you a great deal of comfort when you're driving in stop-start conditions. Where the Nexon EV is a bit difficult to drive is on steep slopes. Now what does take a bit of getting used to is the amount of rollback you get on a slope. Lift off the brake and that's a good foot and a half, and that could be a bit difficult in tight traffic. When it comes to charging, DC charging is possible on the Nexon EV too, with 80% possible in just 60 minutes, and it also can be fully charged from 20% up in just 8 hours on a standard 15 amp AC plug. The Nexon EV works superbly as a city car. Comfortable, quick off the mark and effortless to drive, it feels so familiar, most drivers will be happy to swap in a jiffy. A lot, however, depends on two things: driving range in the real world, expected to be between 190 and 210 kilometers, and its price, which we are told is between 15 and 17 lakhs. Sure, early adopters who don't mind paying a bit more are likely to be interested, but for those of you looking for a more definitive verdict, we'll have to wait for a more thorough and detailed road test. What can't be missed, however, is that this remains one of the most promising EVs to go on sale yet.
Up next, all the action from one of the most popular events on the Indian motorsport calendar, the Valley Run.
One weekend every year, the sleepy area of Ambi Valley is overrun with the sound of sheer horsepower. Everything you can imagine, from small 100cc commuter motorcycles all the way to the biggest, baddest superbikes in the country, all the way from your small commuter cars, your little hatchbacks, to the biggest, fastest supercars in the country. They're all here. It's a sheer orgy of horsepower over one weekend. It is the annual, in this case, the 2019 Valley Run. This year, festivities were kicked off by Mumbai's supercar group, Throttle 97, organizing a mega supercar rally that saw 50 cars take to the roads of Ambi Valley and on towards the drag strip in an impressive convoy. Drag racing is one of the most competitive yet most inclusive form of motorsport in the world and in India. Keeping with tradition, the 1/4 of a mile or quarter mile or 402-meter drag strip saw both two-wheelers and cars flying down the runway, clocking up some impressive times. This year, the Valley Run saw a record 600 participants enter their well-oiled machines for drag racing glory. And it wasn't just people from Mumbai and Pune who took part in the 2019 Valley Run. The drag race saw participation from across the length and breadth of the country.
We are in the 7th edition of the Valley Run. We have a lot of excellent participation this time. People have come in from all parts of India: Kolkata, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Surat, and the worst, Mumbai, Pune, of course. So yeah, there's a lot of amazing cars, a lot of tuned up cars, a lot of supercars.
The furthest a car travelled to participate in the Valley Run was a Lamborghini Aventador S, belonging to the founder of the Club GT in Kolkata, thus showcasing how important an event the Valley Run is on the Indian motorsport calendar. Now, as with every year, there's a lot of competition this year too, and with competition brings rivalries, and this year was no different. This year's rivalry was between two brand new M5s, the current generation M5s, and it did get very, very hot. When the dust settled though, a current gen M5 from Mumbai took top honours of the day at a breakneck 10.352 seconds. Not only was this the fastest time in its category, but also the fastest time for any four-wheeler at the event. Of course, what really excited the crowds were the bike categories, with the fastest time of the day going to a drag spec Yamaha R1 that clocked an unbeatable 9.5 seconds down the drag strip. And with several bikes clocking a sub 10-second timing, the competition here was intense. And while the normal bike categories were impressive, the wheelie class is what really riled the crowds up, especially with the Kawasaki ZX 10R managing a jaw-dropping wheelie quarter-mile time of 10.2 seconds on one wheel. Not to be left out of the action on the sidelines, V2 participated this year in the Mercedes-AMG C43 Coupe. With all-wheel drive and almost 400 horsepower at our disposal, the C43 clocked an impressive 12.9 second time in its category. With drag racing getting more and more popular once again across India after seeing a bit of a lull in the past, Elite Octane plans to grow the event to even bigger heights.
It was a good event, overall a lot of competition, lot of guys from all over India, and the organizers did a good job in having this event.
So yeah, all in all, I think 600 participants, and the event has grown over the years, and yeah, we're going to take it to many more cities, and we are going to try and do this at least twice a year with some more smaller races which would not be public races, but I think we have a lot of cars and bikes that are ready to get into this kind of motorsport and the overall festival of speed basically.
It's amazing to be at the Valley Run 2019 and it's been a fantastic event. We're waiting for more to happen and hoping for 3 more next year.
All in all, with participation in the Valley Run growing by the year and speeds and machines getting even more serious, there's no denying the fact that drag racing is here to stay. After all, the bragging rights are well worth the time, money and sheer energy that the competitors put into their well-oiled machines. And now it's time for tips on sustainability and protecting the environment with Servo Futura G Plus from Indian Oil. Choose a smaller car if you don't need the size and space. Overloading the car with weight makes it work harder.